Hi everybody, welcome to Muzzle Flash. My name is Rick Hardman and I'm going to be your host. The purpose of the video today, during the last time we were filming, I had quite a few questions that came up to me about the types of firearms that I carry. How did I get into concealed carry? What holsters do you use? Why do you where do you carry on your body? Things like that. So I'm going to be doing my best to address some of those questions. And before I go any further, I just want to preface this entire video by saying I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody who's been into concealed carrying firearms for a while now. As a result of that, I've really got a little bit more into the firearms in general, have taken it upon myself to learn as much about firearms and concealed carrying firearms as I can. There's a lot of resources out there for you, such as YouTube, different firearms publications. People like me that you may know, go to the guys at the gun store. Well, if you go to the guys at the gun store and they are only capable of directing you to a specific brand, try and stay away from those guys. Not saying anything is necessarily wrong with that, but what works for them, what works for me, may not work for you. You need to be able to find a firearm that works specifically for you. That being said, most of what I'm going to share with you today is my opinion. I will tell you how I arrived at that opinion, but again, I'm not saying that this is a one-size-fits-all type situation. You need to find what is going to work for you. So, the first question, what firearm do I carry? I started out carrying a Sig Sauer 40 caliber handgun. It was about a 4-inch barrel double stack, so it was a large, heavy piece of steel. I got into it because I had read about Sig. I was like, hey, this sounds like a good brand. Went over to Cabela's, tried out what I thought I wanted, which is a Sig P226. Realized that was entirely too large to conceal carry, and then I shifted over to a polymer frame SP 2022. Just got a holster from Alien Gear, and it's like, yeah, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. Well, then I realized eventually that firearm was a little too large for consistent daily concealed carry. A little too heavy. So from there, I shifted over to a Smith & Wesson Shield 9mm. Shield was a great gun. It really was for me. It was less than 1 inch wide, would lay pretty flat underneath my clothing. I wasn't too big of a fan about the magazine capacity. It only had 8 rounds. I did find a way to modify that so I could get up to 10 rounds in there, but that made the firearm larger, which kind of defeated the purpose of getting a smaller firearm to begin with. So about 5 months, 6 months after I shifted over to the Smith & Wesson Shield, Sig released this firearm. This is the Sig P365. Here, let me do this. You guys can see, chamber is empty. Here's the magazine. It is also empty. And if throughout the course of this video, I do point the firearm that way, there is a cement wall right in behind where the camera's at. There is nobody operating the camera. It's just a webcam. So if I'm pointing this direction, it is in a perfectly safe direction. Nobody is not going to be going through a wall and, shooting a neighbor or anything like that. I try to avoid that as much as possible. So anyway, I shifted over to the Sig P365. This is the 12-round magazine that comes with that you can get as an optional accessory with it. It's great. I really like this gun. It's small. This is actually smaller than the Shield was, and it holds 50% more ammunition. That's kind of a win right out of the gate right there. It has the SIG X-ray sights. I don't know if you can see those very well. It's kind of getting blown out with the brightness there. Sorry about that. The X-ray sights, this is a like a fluorescent green front sight, blacked out rear sights. These are both tritium sights. So there's two little dots here in the back sight, the rear sight, that are filled with tritium gas, and they actually glow regardless of whether or not they've been exposed to light. This gun has a very low bore axis, which means right there where the top of my finger is, that's where the center line of the barrel is and in relationship to the top of my hand. So you can see that that actually sits almost right on top of my hand. So on a smaller micro-sized firearm like this, one of the typical experiences you're going to have is when you pull the trigger, recoil takes over. Recoil, muzzle flip, muzzle rise, kick, however you want to call it. Recoil takes over and pushes that muzzle back and up like this. You then have to lower the firearm back onto target, and it's something that generally kind of looks like this. Now with this particular firearm, when you're shooting, because the barrel is sitting right up on top of your hand, it tends to push back like this instead of flipping up. So what that means is you stay on target for faster follow-up shots. One of the main reasons I really like this firearm. Also, the grip is really comfortable in my hand. Second firearm that I've recently picked up, also empty and empty there, is the SIG P320X Compact. So this is based off of their 320 line, which is the military has adopted that as their sidearm. 15-round magazine capacity here. Also has the X-ray sights. One of the other key things that I like about this, it has a very deep undercut right underneath the handguard, or the trigger guard there, sorry, where my middle finger wraps around, and it allows me to get a nice firm grip on the firearm. This one, not quite so much as far as the barrel sitting on top of my hand, but this is overall a heavier firearm, so the weight in the firearm actually helps absorb the recoil, so you don't notice it flipping up very much on this one either. As far as why SIG, not some other brand, I've owned and I have shot a lot of other firearms. SIG just fits my hand best. That's it. It's really comfortable. The grips on these things, they just fit me. They tend to fit a wide variety of people, especially once you go to their 320 line. The way that I look at it is the 320 series of pistols was designed for the U.S. military. Therefore, it's going to fit as wide a variety of hands as there are soldiers who are going to be using them. It's just very comfortable. The ergonomics on this pistol are outstanding for me. If you've got larger hands, or if you have been trained on them, a Glock may fit you better. If a Smith & Wesson may fit you better. It's, again, this is my opinion, and that's why I was asked, why do I carry this? That's why. It fits me. I like the grip profile. I like the grip angle on this. It just feels, for me, like it points very naturally. Next question that I had, what type of holster do you use? That's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, and literally, it's a mixed bag. These are the holsters that I have for my different firearms. I pulled them out of my several different drawers and closets, and yeah. When you first start concealed carrying, you're going to go through a lot of holsters if you haven't done it already, and you're going to, until you find the one or two that actually work the best for you. You're going to have two basic materials out there. Kydex, which is like a hard plastic. This one's also Kydex. Or you're going to have leather. You're going to have, on the Kydex ones, they're going to generally be more molded to the firearm, but then if you get the leather ones, they can also be molded to fit the shape of the firearm as well. You can also get a, like the alien gear that I mentioned earlier, whatever. It's as long as the gun fits and you're comfortable with it, great. That's really all you're looking for. But as far as what I carry, I'll go ahead and show you a couple of those. When I first started with the SIG, the 365, again, we're still empty in there. I started with this style holster. This is by a company called Cover 6 Gear. They are local to Kansas. They're made in Gardner, Kansas. The holster is made specifically for this firearm. It's got a very deep clip on it. This is the standard clip that comes with this. You can see that there. It's a very stiff clip. You can actually wear this with sweatpants. I know, I've done it. I switched that clip out for an ulti clip because I wanted something that was just a little bit more low profile that could ride behind my belt. So right now, this particular holster can be carried anywhere from the 4 o'clock position all the way up to the appendix position. I'm going to demonstrate this in the appendix position because it's just easier for the sake of the video right now. So, pardon me while I adjust here. That was clamped down the ulti clip right there. Now I'm just securing my belt over the top, rotating the firearm just a little bit, and there. And that's one of the advantages of appendix carry, which I've started doing a little bit more recently, is that the firearm just pretty much lays almost invisible against your body. With the way that a guy's shirt naturally drapes, it's going to tend to hide that very well. You can see if I shift over to a side profile here, it just looks like I got a little bit more hanging out in the front. Hey, I'm in my 40s. It doesn't matter. I probably do have a little bit more hanging out right there. Same thing from this angle. Nothing really there. Let me adjust my posture at least there. So it's the firearm is there. It's just hard to see. Another advantage with this particular holster is that it's tuckable. Now, occasionally I do have to go places where I need to tuck in a shirt, like if I'm wearing slacks, and if I'm wearing slacks, in a dress shirt to church, going to a wedding, yeah, I can still carry going to weddings, or funerals, wherever. If you see me out and about, I've probably got a gun on me somewhere. So, but this is a tuckable holster. So I'm able to tuck my shirt in around the firearm and in between the clip on the holster and the actual outside of the material on the holster. And you do that, you tuck in, you give your shirt just a little blouse effect, I guess. You just pull it out just a little bit right there. And then the firearm disappears. If with this style holster, when you have a single point attachment like this, if you notice that the firearm is still printing just a little bit, you just hold onto that clip and you give the firearm a little bit of a rotation over one way or the other, and that helps it disappear even more. So let's see, I'm looking at my monitor there. There we go. That's a little better. And that's all you have to do is just, check yourself every once in a while. So again, from the side, even standing there, there's really no printing on this particular holster or firearm. Same thing facing this direction. There's really no way to see it. And with a tuckable holster, the firearm is also very easy to retrieve. You're also able to reholster very easy. So that's the Cover 6 Gear holster. I also have one of those for my X Compact that I've been using. Lately, I've also gone to a very minimalist style of holster. This is the Raven Concealment Vanguard system. I think I got that right. I got it off of Amazon. It's $40 for a little chunk of plastic. This is a trigger guard holster. So the only thing that's covered on the firearm is the actual trigger. So basically what that means is even if there's, you try to pull the trigger in this position, there is absolutely no way that you can get in there and do that. This one is primarily made to be an appendix carry holster. So it's right up there in the front. Pull your shirt down over the front of it. And again, very easy to retrieve the firearm. Reholstering is also very easy as well. You just make sure when you're doing this and you're putting it back in, if you feel any resistance, stop. You do not want to get any fabric in between, in behind the trigger while you're, no, that's bad. We'll leave it right there. You can imagine what you're about to shoot off if you find fabric in front of your trigger when you're trying to reholster there. So this one is also a tuckable style holster. There we go. Same style. So the key thing that I look for on any type of holster is the lack of printing. I am a concealed carry person. I am not open carry. I don't need anybody freaking out when I walk into Target carrying a gun on my hip. I don't need the manager called on me or anything like that. I'm not about making political statements. I've got that style holster also for the X Compacts, which again, this conceals very easily right there. What are the other questions? Where on my body do I carry? Well, as you can see, I'm generally right now, I have kind of shifted towards an appendix carry. The reason for that, I've seen lots of studies, I guess, that people have done where they have timed how quickly you can retrieve a firearm from the appendix position versus the hip carry versus the 4 or 5 o'clock. You know, having it over here on your 3 o'clock. So we got appendix or noon, 3, 4, 5. 6 o'clock is small of your back. The appendix retrieval is actually very fast, very fluid. This wins out by about 1/10 of a second to 1/4 second every time. That matters a lot when you're in that type of a situation. How quickly can you get to your firearm and bring it into play? So that's where I've shifted my personal carry to is the appendix method. I carried in the 4 o'clock for a long time. It works. It works great. It's just, this actually tends to conceal for me a little bit easier now. I've lost about 20 pounds, and that helps to make it even more invisible right here. So yeah, it's great. I like appendix carry. I have carried, and I can carry very comfortably in the 4 o'clock position. Doesn't bother me. What advice can you give to someone who may be wanting to carry but doesn't know how to get started? Ask questions. Do some research on YouTube. Look out there for great firearms to concealed carry. Look up several different channels on YouTube that have guys that are actually into concealed carry, and see what they do. Where do they carry? They'll probably also have some advice sections on there for you on selecting a holster and selecting a firearm. Ask questions of folks like me that are actually into concealed carry. Go to gun stores. Ask the people there, what do they do? Ask them if they can help you find a firearm that is going to work for you. And again, like I said earlier, if they try and steer you towards one firearm or another brand, ask their opinion on stuff and then move on, find somebody else. Last question that we had, do you carry with a round in the chamber? Yes, I do. I didn't feel comfortable doing that at first. I was on my church's armed safety team and had been on there about 6 months when I was talking to the guy who was running it at the time. And he asked to see my firearm, and I showed him. I dropped the magazine out and I racked it back, to show that it was empty, and he noticed that a round didn't pop out. And he asked me, he's like, "Are you carrying without a round in the chamber?" I said, "Yes." because I practice my draw being this and then coming up. I'm going to drop the mag here for a second. And he gave me a pretty serious talking to that kind of changed my attitude on that. I was worried about the firearm, discharging when I was carrying it. If you have a good holster, there's nothing that's going to make the gun go off. Okay, if you're really that concerned with it, get a safety. None of my firearms that I carry right now have external safeties on them. I just became accustomed to the idea that a good holster with adequate trigger protection and my trigger finger are the best safeties going. Because as long as I keep my finger off the trigger until I'm ready to fire, that firearm isn't just going to go off on its own. So being able to draw and do this is a lot quicker than the person who has to draw and do that. I save a lot of time out of my draw stroke doing that. Basically, what I want to sum this up by saying is that when it comes to concealed carry, get a firearm that's going to work for you. Get a firearm that you're going to be comfortable in. Make sure you have a good holster to carry that firearm in. Practice, please, practice with your firearm before you actually start concealed carrying. And if you're brand new to firearms, take some classes. Ask questions. There's lots of people out here who want to help you get comfortable with this. All right. My name's Rick Hardman. This has been Muzzle Flash. You guys have a great afternoon.